machine. There we go. And what we could do, let's put that just there so that you can see what we are making. There are our two, let's just bring that over there. There we are. There are our two projects, or the samples. So I'm going to put my lining piece out the way at the minute, and we'll work on our main outer piece. So as I said, I have already fused my fusible fleece onto the reverse of my outer fabric. Then with my continuous zip, I'm leaving it together at the minute, but we can pull it up. We will be pulling it apart. So here is my zipper coil. As you see, it's smooth on the other side, and I want the zipper coil down, and you want to have an excess piece going past this edge here. So I'm just going to place it there. If you want to find the center and do that, but as long as you've got excess at both ends, and then you either put your zipper foot on, or with this machine, the actual foot is 1/4 of an inch wide, and let's just bring that down just a little bit more. I don't need to use a zipper foot. Okay, so as you can see, we have a curve here and we have a curve here. So with a straight zip, if we just put it round, it really pleats and puckers. So what we're going to do, let's get that down there. Let's just start stitching. I've got a straight edge here. I'm lining the edge of the tape with the edge of my fabric. Oops, that's the wrong. There we go. Let's just do that properly. Okay, let's start stitching. So while we're on the straight edge, that is fine. But when we're coming to this curve here, what we're going to do is clip into the tape. So about every 1/4 of an inch or so, I'm just going to clip for a few bits. There we go. And then when we put the tape down, I'm still lining up the edge. But then when we're coming to a curve, when we then move that around, and you can put pins in here if you like, can you see how that fits nicely around the edge? So still make sure that the tape, I think I've gone round enough actually. Do a little bit more. We don't need to do it for this straight edge here, but just, it's a little bit like using bias binding. Just make sure that we flatten those where we've clipped, and it makes, you will get some puckers, but that will come out in the wash if you like. So keep the edges aligned and keep your foot in line with the edge there. So just do a little bit more, and then I've got some more curve coming there. So again, and I'm clipping to about halfway. There's almost a line along the edge of the tape. So you just clip to there, as I say, about every 1/4 of an inch or so. And that's going to give us a nice smooth, I think I've done enough there. So let's just tuck that down, and it just fits around the edge very, very easily. There we go. And now we're coming down. That's it. I've gone a little bit too far, but it doesn't matter. So I'm still keeping the edge aligned. There we are. Now what I can actually do is trim that little bit off, but I've still got excess zip tape there. So now this is where we then open or pull the other part. So I'm pulling the other part of the zip off, and if we keep it together like that, but I'm taking it off, then we can just know it's the right way by because it was like that, we can just slide this zip. Let's just undo it there. Slide it that way over here, and it's going to go round this opposite edge. And we can check there, the nylon coil is facing down. So let's just push that over there. And we can do exactly the same again on this side. So we can just line up, and working flat as I am is so much easier. So tape edge to the edge of our fabric, and then we can start clipping because we're going to come up to the curve and we want it to sit around here very, very easily. Right, I think we've done enough there. So again, just push your finger, either put pins in or push the zip tape out to the edge. There we are. Don't want it to come in, but just around that edge. And I think we're coming up to the straight now. And right, we'll do it just a little bit more because then we've got another curved edge coming here. So we can start clipping. You don't want to clip right to the nylon coil, but just about, as I say, about 1/4 inch apart and just up to that line of the tape, which is in the middle. Okay, so again, we can just carry on around. It is actually easier to clip it as you go because you don't actually know exactly where the clipping is necessary unless you do a bit of measuring. And who wants to do measuring when you don't need to? Okay, so we have gone all the way around now, all the way around. We've got our tape on both edges. This is where now we take our lining fabric and we're just going to place that over the top. Now, I must admit at this point, I do like to pin. Let's just see that, yep, that is about there. So I am going to put some pins around this edge to hold it together. So I'll start one end and the opposite end. And let's just put a few pins to hold the lining. It does help it to fit really nicely together because we want the edge of the lining to line up with the edge of the zip and the outer fabric, which we've already stitched. So you can see that sits really, really nicely. And let's just put that one in too. And then we'll do exactly the same on the other side. So let's just see, we'll put one more in there. I haven't got my best pins out actually. So then again here, just line up this cutout piece here and pin into there and pin around here, oh, a couple more there. So try not to scratch my needle bed there. And then if we come around to here and make sure that lines up too, that's it, that does. Oh, guess this pin, just pull that over, lining it all up nice, and there we go. And I can see that is fitting really well. Well, it should do because it is the same template that we've used for the lining as well as the outer and the fusible fleece. So last one here. Now all we're going to do now, I'm going to turn my iron on because I'm not going to bring the iron over here, but what we're going to do now is stitch the same in the same place as we did when we put the first part of the zip on, and we can watch this outer edge and keep the raw edges aligned. There we go. And just hold that down around the edge. So we are basically, not that we can see, but we're basically stitching the same line as we did for popping the zip in. So around there, I'll take the pin out as we go. And I'm keeping the edge of my foot lined up with the edge of the fabric. Take that out. There we are. So we'll cut there and then we'll start on this other side. And let's pop our needle down there. There we go. So all the way around this edge. The fabric does tend to, I say ruck up. It just puckers just a little bit, but if you keep your fingers on there and just make that, oh, my pedal slipped now. That's it. Just give it a little pull so that it lays nice and flat with your outer fabric underneath, and just bring that round so that it all fits nicely together. You see that little bit of excess there, but we can trim that away because the top quite often stretches. Okay, so there we have it. We're still leaving these ends on, and all we need to do now, we're not going to cut into these edges. We are going to turn it through to the right side through this outer edge here, or through this opening which is going to be our base, or it's going to be the side base. So let's just turn that through, and there we go, pull that through so that we've got now the zip is showing along the outer edges. There we go. And we can just push that out and all the way around. And we basically come back to the same shape that we started with, except it's lined and it's got a zip around the edge. Okay, so let's just push that out. So all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take it to the ironing board and I'm just going to press that so that's nice and flat. Won't take me a moment, but let's just see. There we are. So how you put the iron on, it's all ready to give this a nice flat appearance, and especially around the zip. So I've done one side, and now I'm just doing the other side. And I'm just pulling that zip away from the fabric so that we've got all of the zip showing. And then I'm just going to give it a press on the top as well. So I'm nearly done. Let's say the zip does. Oh, it pulls in, but that's what gives to the shape. So as you can see, I've pressed all of that, pressed it on the reverse so that the lining is pulled away from the zip. You can see the zip all the way around the edge. Okay, next part. Let's just clip off. See where this is what the there's a little bit there. We'll just trim that just a little bit so that these edges fit. And around here, that's it. We've got a little bit come off there, and a little bit. It's just a little triangle where it's folded. Okay. Now what we need to do is pop our zipper pull on here. So if we just fold that together, now I think I'm going to make sure that the zip has got the same amount on each side. So let's just line that up. Yes, one's a little bit longer than the other. So let's just pop that like that. And we're going to put the zip pull on. So if we just tuck that in, now how I find it easiest, we want to line up, just pull the zip as if it had a zip pull on, line up these pointy bits, the points of the fabric. There we are. And once we've got that roughly lined up here, I am just going to put a pin just to hold this together. So let's just put a pin in there and a pin. It just makes it easier to put your zip pull on because it's holding that flat. Okay, so we've got those two pieces there. Let's take our zip pull. Now what I do here is hold that one up, have my zip pull with, you see there, the shaped head is pointing that way. So we pop that in I do it in the left first. So if we just pull that on, so that's just on there. And if you have your zip pull facing upwards, and then pop the other side in. Now the other side, you just feel one little bit. So it doesn't go very far down, but there's a little bit. You can just feel one of the parts of the zip, one of the teeth fits in there. I then put my fingers either side, grab hold of the pull, and wiggle, and it doesn't work. There, and I've wiggled, and then the zip goes on. And I'll just look there to see. There we go. I think I'll take my pins out now because I've attached my zip, and those sides are actually nice and even. So what we can do now is do it up to about halfway. Okay, like that. And then we're going to turn it to the wrong side. So I'll just push this edge through there and just pull it to the wrong side. So we've got the wrong side on the outside. Okay, like that. So we've done that. And then we are going to flatten. Can you see this piece here? So that was that straight cutout. I'm going to flatten the zip along to the edge here. So let's just pull that up a little bit and flatten that down. I can see that's okay. And we can have a little bit, it's that straight edge that's what we're looking for. Doesn't matter if we've got that little bit hanging out. And then I'm just going to stitch across there. So while I'm holding that, you can always put a pin in there if you want to, but while I'm holding it and I'm making sure that the zip is centered across there, and let's just see, I don't want that. I want that to be a little bit more along there. I am going to put a pin in there actually. Right, so now I tell you what I haven't done. I haven't top stitched. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's take that off. I need to top stitch around here. So let's fire away. So that's why I thought, oh, I need that. Okay, so I'm using just my same foot, and I'm just top stitching around the edge on the fabric, on the outer fabric, and the zip, I'm just sort of pulling that out. There we go, all the way around here. And good practice for putting the zipper pull on. So let us just, there we are, using that, the inside edge of my foot. There we are. Now, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to stitch around this cutout piece. So let's just go around here and across here and down this side. So it's holding all my layers together. And then I can just carry on top stitching around the edge of the zip again. So as you saw, I'm just pulling the zip away. There we are. So the straight edges, it comes away anyway, but it's around the curved areas where you just want to pull that zip away from the fabric, from the curved edges, and all the way down to the bottom there. And then, because I knew I hadn't trimmed something, and then we'll just come around this edge and across here. I've got a little bit of excess there, I can see, and then down this little side here and trim. Okay, so I can see I've got a little bit of excess lining fabric, so let us just trim that away because we don't need that there. That's it. Little bit of excess fabric there, and oh, there's that triangular bit. And we just got a little bit here as well. So we can just cut that away and trim. There we are, that looks much better. Or we can take that bit away as well. Right, so going back to where we were, I now need, let's just see that those, oh, it hasn't caught that bit down, but we shall catch, oh, I'll catch that bit down there. Right, so I'm just going to sew across this side where it didn't catch the lining. It's just easier if it's all held together nicely there for when we do our next part. So let's just see if I fold that in half. Oh, they're even. That's all right. We don't really need as much. So let's just see. I've just lined that up just to get those two. Well, not quite even. There we are. So I'll do what I did before. Fold that together. And we want that edge to line up along there. And fold that one together as well. So, and we're going to put a pin just to hold that piece down so that it's easier for getting the zip pull onto my tape. If you were using a closed end zip, it would just automatically, you just pull the zip up and it's done. Right, so let's have a look. Zip pull again. So make sure it's the right way up. And I pop the left side in first, push that down and then pull with the zip pull up. Not too far because we do want this to go, this side will only go down one. Just feel it. I just felt the little click. Okay. And then I put my fingers on each side, pull up the pull, give a wiggle. Oh. Okay. There we are. And it's pulled together. Okay, so now we can take out our pins because we know, there we go. I'm doing it the wrong way up, aren't I? But I want it to be this way anyway. I should have done it from the other side for easier, but it's worked. So I've got that on, and how I should have got it on. The easiest way, of course, but I had to do it the difficult way. We could, oh, I've got zip pulls on. Yeah, okay. Let's just pull that off because we need it on the other way, don't we? Trisha, if you can do something wrong, you can do it wrong. Okay, we need to put it on in the correct way. So let's start again. We press the right sides down because obviously it's not going to work if your zip pull is on the wrong side. So let's fold that in so that they line up. It's Friday. I've had a busy week. Right, so we have our pieces there. So at least I'm getting practice of putting zip pulls on. So you need to have it that the pointed end is facing away. Yeah, it's Friday the 13th. Right, let's put it on again. So fit that side on. That's gone on a little bit. Fit the other side in. And I should be able to hear it. It's better when the zip pull is up. Just pull that one piece in. Probably won't go on this time. Fingers on the tape. Oh, yes, easy peasy. That's gone on. So it's that little wiggle at the beginning. So we're going to do it up to halfway. And we've got our zip pull on the right side. So now we're going to turn it to the wrong side. There we go. Right. And then we'll leave it there because we don't want to close it completely anyway. Then we are going to flatten this down so that that lines up across there, apart from some little points out that edge, which is fine. And we've got our zip central to this part along here. And I'm just going to pop that under, and I'm going to stitch with a 1/4 inch seam, reversing at the end. There we are. So now that I've stitched across there, I can now trim this off. So cut that off. And we're ready to do the other end. So that's nice and, well, not neat enough. We'll finish off that in a moment. And then we're going to go to the other end and we'll do exactly the same. Leave the zip pull where it is, but fold that in and fold the other side in. And we know, might put a pin here because it just needs to be held so that the edges align. Let's put that pin just there and also just along there. And then we can look at, that's a bad pin. There we go. Straight in. There we are. But we want these two zip ends to meet. So let's just sort of pull that. I think I'm going to do it this way because I can then see where it's going. But I want those to just butt up together. That's better. So that you can then see that that zip is as it should be. So then we can slip that over. Oh no, I just pushed it up again. So let's just pull that out. There we are. Just so that it matches. It joins up next to each other. Should have put a pin in that as well. But we want that to be just touching so that the zip pull comes along there. I might actually do it this way because I can see better as to where it's going. So again, line that up, line that to there. We get started on the edge. Make sure that is going correctly. And there we are. Then we can hold that down and go straight across to the other edge and cut. And then just check on the other side. That's fine. That's just how it should be. Take those pins out and trim these pieces off. So I suppose I've trimmed it to just under 1/4 inch. Because now we're just going to make that very neat. Just do that a little bit more that side because it looks a little bit more along there. Now we're going to take our 2 pieces of fabric which have disappeared. There we go. Where has that gone? Probably gone over here. Nope. Okay, this always happens to me. Where have they gone? Let's cut just a little bit more then. Right, so I need 2 pieces which are about 1.5 inches wide. This is what I had. Here they are. Okay. Trish can't see for looking. So if this were patterned fabric, you'd want the right side facing up. So all I'm going to do is pop this piece on there and I'm going to stitch across this edge with a little bit of excess fabric at each side, but we're not stitching on that. So again, just the 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then we're going to pull this from underneath. Just pull that out. I nail press just those edges there. So there's like a little bit of a seam allowance folded back. Then I'm going to fold this piece, the raw edge, into the edge of our outer piece, of our outer pouch. And just finger press that along there. Now that looks a little bit long this side, don't need all of that. So we'll trim that bit off. Now I'm going to fold that in so it comes across the edge. And I'm going to fold this side in as well, over the raw edge at the side. And then I'm going to fold it up. So there's a couple of ways of being able to do this. You might fold the other way first. But I'm going to just hold that down. Then we'll just stitch with our 1/4 inch seam allowance. I can see there's a little bit poking out there, which I usually like that to go underneath. Let's just have a look. That's it. Let's just poke that tiny little bit, which is the first fold we did. Poke that under there. Seam ripper's really good for doing these little things. So just reverse there. That's covered. And we'll go across there. And then also I can see this is poking out. So just tuck that inside and pull your the tape over. There we go. Tuck it down. and bring that outer bit over the top. We want it to look as neat as we can. So just reverse there. And then we've got a nice neat edge. Let's just clip that bit off, clip that bit off. And we've got a nice neat covering of our raw edge at that end. And then we're going to do exactly the same here. I'm going to trim this off a little bit before I start because there was too much. So we'll center this onto our strip. There we are. And stitch across where the outer fabric is and the zip area. Whoops. And trim that off. And then we can clip that out of the way. Pull that piece underneath. And tell you what we can do. So a second way, I'll do this one differently. We could in fact push this, put the that piece over the edge first of all. So we could put that over there and then finger press down that side, and we can bring this side over, and then we fold these other pieces up to the edge and fold it over again. And I usually do that. That's come up quite neat. So before I do the other end, I'm going to start stitching here. Whoops, and there we go. So let's start stitching at this end, and just I'll do a little reverse there, and that started to unfold. So here, if we fold this in, I don't like to have too many pins. Fold that over, and then fold this in, and in again, and fold that over, and then that's going to cover up. So let's just make sure that's nice and straight. Okay, so straight across there, and then using your seam ripper or stiletto. There we are. So that also gives quite a nice, neat finish to your edges. There we are. Okay, so we can undo this now. It is finished. And then we can pull that out, tuck it in, or rather push that neatened piece in. See, there's a little bit. This is where I like to trim those bits of thread, because otherwise they poke out where you don't want them to be. It's only a little bit, but I can see it. And then here, this end, similarly, tuck that in, poke it out, pull it out, push that around, and then we can zip it up. There we are. What I also usually do, that's come up quite nice, along here, I'll just give that a little fold, little nail press along there. That's the base. Let's just do that up properly. And then here as well, just stretch that out. You could give it a press as well. That just gives you a nice, nice flat base. And there is your Pippa pencil case. Just like that. How easy was that? There we go. So can't see the time. What is the time? 25 past. Nice and easy. There is your, just pull that down a bit, zip. There is that end and that end. So that's the one we've made very quickly. I like it. I just like it. It is cute. And it will take a fair bit. Take those bits out. Don't think I've got a pen to hand, but you could get a fair few pencils in there. I know they fit because I've tried them out. So, and as I was saying before, it's handy, yeah. It can sit on your table and you can just throw your bits and pieces in there. You see, that will sit like that, quite wide open. to get everything you want. And it is quick to make, and it doesn't use much fabric. I think it fitted on a 10 by 12 inch piece of fabric. So unfortunately, I should have done it to fit a 10 by 10 square. I could do another one, I suppose, so it fits a layer cake piece. That would be quite good. But I didn't. I just made it up, folding paper, and it worked. So there they are. Lovely little make for the weekend. Doesn't take long and just quite enjoyable. You could, a couple of hours and you have it made. Pop whatever you like in there. Oh, hello, Sue. Thank you, Christine. Pop a little bit of makeup in there. Could be a makeup bag, couldn't it? Could be a paintbrush, an artist. Paintbrushes could go in there. You could have your reels of thread, anything you like, even all of your machine feet to keep them together. But as I say, nice and easy. And here is the shape of your template. Just like that. Nice and easy. Okay. Tonight, just so that you know, we're having a Chinese takeaway and I can't wait. And it is coming in 2 minutes. So that was timed to perfection. So all I'll say to you is thank you so much for joining me. It has been lovely. I've stayed warm. Thank you, Kim. I've stayed warm because I'm always excited about sewing and have enjoyed it. Do I have, where are we? That fabric for sale. I tell you what I'll do. Because I've got them in 3 colourways. I've got them in the green, the red, and a lovely russety colour with the gold there. I'll have them in next Thursday's sale. Next week, we will have a fabric sale. I didn't do one this week, so I'm doing alternate. So we'll have it in next week's sale. How about that? It should be £14 a metre. I think it's on the website actually at £12 or £6 for a half metre, but I'll do it a little bit cheaper in the sale next week if you can wait. So I'll leave that with you. Next week in the Sew with Trisha group on Tuesday will be, must be postcard time. So postcards next week. Thank you, Donna. On the Thursday, we'll have a fabric sale. And on the Friday, I'll find something different to make. Actually, yes, I have 2 or 3 things in mind to do with sewing related, I think. Sewing storage, how about that? So take care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your evening and the weekend, and let's hope for a warmer week next week, but we'll enjoy ourselves with sewing, whatever the weather might be. So take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.